Football is back. But this time, something feels different. Because tonight, the waiting ends. The arguments begin. The predictions begin. The pressure begins. And before this season is over, some clubs will be celebrating the greatest moment of their lives. While others will be asking one painful question. How did everything go so wrong? The Premier League is officially back. And if you thought last season was dramatic, you might want to sit down for this one. Because the 2026-27 Premier League season is opening with a story that almost sounds scripted. The reigning champions, Arsenal, begin their title defense at home against Coventry City. A club returning to the Premier League after 25 years. One team wants to prove that last season was only the beginning. The other wants to prove that they belong here. And tonight, at the Emirates, one of these stories is going to get its first chapter. But here is the real question. Can Arsenal actually defend their crown? Because winning the Premier League is difficult. Defending it, that is where the real test begins. Last season, Arsenal finally ended their long wait for another Premier League title. After years of coming close, Mikel Arteta's team finally climbed to the top. But now everything has changed. They are no longer the hunters. They are the hunted. Every team wants to beat the champions. Every manager will study them. Every small weakness will be exposed. And Arsenal have also made a major statement in the transfer market. They brought in Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle, adding another elite midfielder to an already talented squad. On paper, Arsenal looks stronger. But football isn't played on paper. And there is another problem. Last season, Arsenal could quietly build momentum. This season, everyone knows exactly what they are coming for. The trophy. And that makes tonight against Coventry much more interesting than it looks. Because if Arsenal starts slowly, people will immediately ask, was last season the beginning of an era or simply the perfect moment? And if Arsenal starts strongly, then the rest of the league might have a serious problem. Now let's talk about something that would have sounded impossible a few years ago. Manchester City. Without Pep Guardiola. The man who transformed Manchester City into one of the most dominant teams English football has ever seen is no longer standing on the touchline. And that alone makes this season incredibly unpredictable. Enzo Meresca now has the responsibility of taking City into a new era. But the transition has already produced questions. City have lost major figures. Rodri is gone. And some of the old certainty around the club has disappeared. Even their opening period has already raised eyebrows following defeat in the Community Shield. But never make the mistake of writing Manchester City off. Because this is still Manchester City. They still have world-class players. They still have enormous resources. And they still have the mentality of a club that expects to win. So the question isn't whether City can compete. The question is, how quickly can Maresca create his own Manchester City? If he gets it right, Arsenal may have a huge problem. And then, there is Liverpool. But this isn't the Liverpool we have become accustomed to. Because one of the biggest changes in the entire Premier League happened at Anfield. Mohamed Salah is gone. The player who became one of the defining figures of Liverpool's modern era has left the club. And Liverpool now have to move forward without him. But that's not the only change. Andoni Iraola is now the Liverpool manager. Which means Liverpool are entering a completely new chapter. New manager. New tactical ideas. New expectations. And a team trying to replace one of the biggest stars in Premier League history. And look at their first major test. Newcastle United. Away from home. On the opening weekend. That is not an easy introduction. In fact, it could be one of the most revealing matches of the entire opening round. Because if Liverpool win, people will immediately start believing again. But if they lose, the questions will begin. Can Liverpool replace Salah? Can Iraola handle the pressure? Can this new Liverpool compete for the title? And perhaps most importantly, has the club already moved on from the era that brought them so much success? We are about to find out. Now let's talk about Manchester United. Last season gave United supporters something they desperately needed. But hope is one thing. Consistency is another. Michael Carrick is now trying to turn that resurgence into something sustainable. And United have strengthened their midfield with players such as Yuri Tillmans, Andre Santos and the incoming Carlos Baleba. But Manchester United don't get patience. They don't get 5 years to figure things out. They don't get to quietly rebuild. Every draw becomes a crisis. Every defeat becomes a headline. Every signing is immediately compared with legends of the past. And their opening match. Hull City away. It might look straightforward. But this is the Premier League. Newly promoted sides can be dangerous. They have nothing to lose. And if United fail to win, the pressure will start immediately. But imagine the opposite. Imagine United start strongly. Imagine they build confidence. Imagine Carrick gets the team playing with discipline and attacking confidence. Suddenly, the conversation changes. And Manchester United could become one of the most interesting teams in the league. Then we have Chelsea. And Chelsea might be one of the most fascinating teams to watch this season. Because they now have Xabi Alonso. Yes, Xabi Alonso. A league-winning manager with a reputation for tactical intelligence. And Chelsea have made a huge statement by signing Morgan Rogers for a reported club record fee of £117 million. And adding a mix of experience in Danny Welbeck and Jordan Henderson to their young squad. But there is something even more interesting. Chelsea have no European football this season. And that could be a blessing. Think about it. Fewer matches. More training time. More recovery. More time for Alonso to implement his ideas. And more focus on the Premier League. Their opening match is Fulham away. And that is exactly the kind of match that can tell us a lot. Because Chelsea supporters don't just want attractive football. They want results. They want consistency. They want to see a Chelsea side capable of challenging the biggest clubs again. And under Xabi Alonso. Could that finally happen? Tottenham. Last season was painful. Very painful. And this season, the club needs a response. They have brought in Marco Senesi and Andy Robertson to help stabilize the defense following major changes at the back. A total of 5 players have joined with heavy signings: Sandro Tonali, Matheus Fernandes, defender Van Heck with Savinho on the brink of joining, and talks ongoing with Manchester City for Omar Marmoush. But Spurs fans aren't interested in excuses anymore. They want results. They want European football. They want to see Tottenham compete. And their first match is against Brentford. A tricky opponent. A team capable of making life extremely uncomfortable for anyone. Tottenham need to start well. Because if they don't, the pressure could become enormous. And in the Premier League, once confidence disappears, it can be incredibly difficult to get it back. But let's not forget the teams who have just arrived. Coventry City, Ipswich Town, and Hull City. For these clubs, this isn't just another season. This is survival. This is history. This is about proving they belong among the biggest clubs in English football. Coventry are back in the Premier League after 25 years. 25 years. And their reward. Opening the season against the defending champions. At the Emirates. You couldn't write a more dramatic opening. Ipswich return as well, while Hull complete the promoted trio. And their objective is simple. Stay alive. Because the Premier League is unforgiving. One bad run can put you in trouble. A few injuries can change everything. And suddenly, a club that looked safe in fighting for survival in April. Now let's get to the question everybody wants answered. Who wins the Premier League? Arsenal. Manchester City. Liverpool. Chelsea. Manchester United. Maybe Tottenham. And here's why this season could be incredibly unpredictable. Arsenal are defending their title. Manchester City have a new manager. Liverpool have a new manager and have lost Salah. Chelsea have Xabi Alonso. Manchester United are trying to build on their resurgence. And Tottenham are entering a new chapter 2 with Roberto De Zerbi getting the players he wants. This isn't a normal Premier League season. This is transition everywhere. And when the biggest clubs are changing at the same time, that's when unexpected things happen. One team will start brilliantly. Another will struggle. Someone nobody expected will suddenly become a superstar. And somewhere around January, we may discover that everything we believed before the season started was completely wrong. Every Premier League season has that player. The player who suddenly explodes. The player who goes from promising to unstoppable. And this season could be no different. Young players will get opportunities. New signings will be desperate to prove themselves. Established stars will be trying to reach another level. And somewhere in the league, there could be a player preparing to announce himself to the world. That's what makes the Premier League so special. You can predict the champion. You can predict the top 4. You can predict relegation. But you can never predict the moment. The 18-year-old who scores the winning goal. The goalkeeper who produces a ridiculous performance. The £50 million signing who suddenly looks like a bargain. Or the superstar who unexpectedly struggles. Football always has a twist. And this season will have plenty. And then there are the fixtures. The matches where football stops being football. And becomes war. Arsenal against Manchester City. Liverpool against Manchester United. Chelsea against Arsenal. Manchester United against Manchester City. Liverpool against Everton. Tottenham against Chelsea. And of course, the North London Derby. The Manchester Derby. The Merseyside Derby. Every one of these matches could change the title race. One goal. One red card. One VAR decision. One injury. One mistake. And suddenly, the entire season looks different. That's the beauty of this league. You don't have to wait until May for drama. It can happen on a random Sunday afternoon in October. But while the biggest clubs fight for the trophy, 3 clubs will be fighting for their Premier League lives. And this could be one of the most brutal relegation battles in years. The promoted clubs know exactly what's coming. Every point matters. Every home game becomes a final. And sometimes, survival comes down to a single goal, a single draw, a single moment. The team that looks doomed in December can suddenly produce an incredible run in March. And the team that looks safe can collapse. That's why nobody is safe. Not until the mathematics says so. What are we actually about to watch? Another Arsenal title. A Manchester City revival. A Liverpool rebuild. A Manchester United resurgence. A Chelsea revolution. A Tottenham comeback. Something nobody saw coming. That's the question. And tonight, we begin getting answers. The first whistle will blow. The stadium will erupt. The players will walk onto the pitch. The fans will sing. And for the next 9 months, every goal will matter. Every point will matter. Every decision will matter. Because by the time we reach May 2027, one team will be standing above everyone else. One captain will lift the trophy. One manager will be called a genius. And somewhere else, someone will be wondering what went wrong. But before we get there, we have 380 matches to play. Thousands of tackles. Hundreds of goals. Countless arguments. Unexpected heroes. Unexpected villains. Late winners. Last-minute heartbreak. VAR controversy. Transfer drama. Managerial pressure. And moments that will be remembered for years. The Premier League is back. The champions are being hunted. The challengers are coming. The promoted clubs are fighting for survival. And the race starts tonight. So forget everything you think you know. Forget the predictions. Forget the favorites. Forget the preseason. Because once that first whistle goes, anything can happen. Welcome back to the Premier League. The 2026-2027 season starts now. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next.